Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson here, Thistle Gypsy. So I just gave the deck Tarot of the Southwest Sacred Tribes. Just gave it a good shuffle after having done my quote-unquote intro video that was extremely long. um, and pulled some cards. So what I was thinking about, I just wanted, which is pretty common for a first pull on a deck that I am not that familiar with, is just tell me about myself, tell me about my current situation, tell me about my life, tell me about my life. In other words, I'm asking the deck to just give me a mirror, and I feel that gives me a sense of the deck's accuracy in regard to me, and it, I think, shows whether the deck has any particular coloring, like if it chooses to talk to me particularly about spiritual things or practical things or career things or matters of the heart, whatever the deck seems to speak the most to, I think is telling. It's like a mirror that has a blue cast or a green cast or something to it. So this seems to have done a pretty good job with, well, fairly across the board. I've got this line is a little bit mysterious to me. But as I was thinking about my life in terms of telling me about my life, I was thinking, well, it'll have to have a card that indicates that I am feeling dispirited. And I have been. I'm starting to recover from that. But the last couple of weeks have been pretty raw because I've had to, let go of my full-time work, and there's all of the implications to that and other things that I expect are going wrong physically. So there was all of that. And so I'm still in there, but I'm starting to recover. Yesterday I started to come out of that. I could really feel it. And so it started with the Four of Cups. So I think that's a fairly accurate reflection, and it's like Four of Cups, and then it's the Eight of Coins. So how I'm feeling about my work, and then the Five of Swords, if I just give it a very simplistic meaning, is just a matter of having to drop some stuff. Too much work, having to drop some stuff. Just really let some stuff go. This could be accusing me of maybe going too far with how I let stuff go, or it could be indicating, this Five of Swords could be indicating that the reason for letting go, which was becoming overwhelmed with all of the stuff coming at me. Something like that. Certainly it was a lot of stress, was essentially the reason I bowed out. And it's just like, I know. That's, stress is supposed to be a no-no, and life, when you have probably any chronic illness, but certainly Lyme disease, and so you put me in a situation of a ton of work stress, then I have to draw some lines. And then we have Justice and the Four of Coins, and so I feel like this is indicating the need to apply for disability because I'm now down to 4 of coins, which is actually quite literal. So a lot of this is proving quite literal because I didn't go to half-time. I didn't go to 20 hours a week, but I did go to 25 hours a week. So from 40 to 25. So I did pretty much have things here. And, you know, I haven't wanted to face this because I just think it's going to be a long, unhappy battle trying to get disability. That again takes me back to stress that I don't need. But that certainly has been on my mind, and it does have to do with the Four of Wands in terms of holding on to what stability and security I do have. So far it's super, this area up here is super direct and quite literal and focusing quite a bit on, you know, it does have, again, the dispirited thing came out. Though there are other cards that would be stronger than this, but I think this shows me kind of where I'm at now. Kind of looking at what I have. Not sure if I want to add anything, if I've got too much as it is. I mean, there's just all kinds of that going on, and it's still fairly emotional, but is becoming less so, and is starting to become more practical. Hallelujah. And this may even just be advising me. So this might be kind of a grounding deck. Not sure, that's a little too early to tell, but I'm going to move these cards out of the way. I think that this, I was afraid it would be really hard to read and not make much sense to me, and so I'm happy that, you know, 6 of the 9 cards were actually pretty darn direct and quite practical. You know, showing me what's going on in my life, truly, what has been going on, what has been critical to what has been on my mind, etc. So these cards were the bottom row. I should have paid attention to what was above them. So that was above that, was above the devil. That was above that. Five and a 4, an 8 and a 4. Lots of 4s, and a 4 in justice. I feel like these might have to do with the devil, but I don't really feel like these have to do with the Ace of Swords, regardless of the fact that there's a sword in the justice. And I don't feel like this has to do with the Page of Coins. But there's an indication here with this line of cards, with these 2 pentacle cards, the 8 and the 4, above this, and that reduction of income does hint at this devil being about, let me get a drink here. I'm not sure if that drink will clear things up or loosen things up and make me need to actually clear my throat some more. being about material aspects. And this is a buffalo skull, and in some ways I think, well, how could the buffalo skull be representing the devil? But it is something that the many Native Americans were highly dependent on. So there is that aspect of being bound to that animal. But I think this has to do with considering that it's bounded by 2 pages. I don't know. It's so part of me wants to say, all right, it's bounded by 2 pages, and it's what I've been learning about. So I've been watching videos on both the shamanic conception of reality and the Old Norse, which does include some Sami and some shamanic comparisons. So I've been listening to 2 different people. Well, actually, there's a variety of people to do with shamanism. And then this would be the one particular person who's talking about Norse traditions and Sami. But I don't feel particularly bound by either of them. And so this line of cards is a little bit mysterious. I mean, this is material stuff up here. It's saying perhaps to examine how I'm bound to things that are providing for me materially. And this might indicate, because it's got the corn and it is also a pentacle, meditating, turning away, and meditating about maybe the place of material things in my life. Or income, value, maybe, I always like to look at either side of the devil, so it's great that it came up in the middle to see what 2 things are being bound together. And here it might be intellect and material things. And so there's a question of, should they be bound together or should they not be bound together? It essentially would require, I'm going to pull one more card, but it's like it would, the sun. So I need to turn the devil into the sun, or I need to be enlightened. I need to find some enlightenment here. And presumably that enlightenment. So one of the things, I need to shed light on the devil and the dependency, and that could actually be, this could be expressing what I don't know about this. I'm sorry. What I don't know about the Justice card. I don't know that much. You just hear bad things, and it's almost like the reputation of the bureaucracy discourages anybody. They don't even have to do the discouraging. Just the reputation is discouraging. But I don't really know that much about that. I do know some, I have to confess, but it has changed over the years. So initially and I don't know that I ended up fully applying or not, but I at least started the process back when I first got Lyme disease, and and I couldn't even work. And uh, I couldn't even clean the sink. And at first, I didn't think it was going to be very long before I would get back on my feet, and so I didn't automatically apply for it. And when I finally did, which was like a year later, for one, I was still having difficulty articulating because my brain was affected, and so I would. And you still see this on my channel if you watch my channel. Some of the long pauses are me thinking and trying to fall into the cards and do that. And it's an, sometimes it's me yawning, sometimes, but sometimes it is my brain just sort of blanking, or my thoughts coming super slowly like molasses, and that would happen a lot. So I remember having a conversation with somebody, and I don't know if this was to help me with the application or if it was part of the process, but I was having a really hard time kind of gathering my thoughts and responding to her, and she was catching on to that. But this was a time when um, it was all mechanical. The things that you had wrong with you had to be mechanical. You couldn't bend your arm this way. You couldn't stand up for. I don't think that any of it had a time limit on it. And it's like with a lot of quote unquote invisible disease, it's like, well, if you had me in a room for an hour, I could probably have looked normal during an hour, as long as, again, that talking thing really wore me down. But, if you had me sitting at a table assembling widgets, I might be able to do that. There would have been a decline in my productivity during that time, but I probably would have been able to do it. But would I have been able to do it then for 8 hours? No way. If I had a good day and I could have done it for 8 hours, could I have done it for 2 days? No. There were times when I would have like 3 hours where I was feeling pretty good and I would do stuff, and the entire next day I would be wiped out. And there was zero accommodation for that sort of illness in disability at that time. And so, yeah, it was really not a happy circumstance. And so I do have some experience attempting to fill out the form, but this might be saying that you're tied to something that you don't fully understand. And so this might actually be the bureaucracy, regardless of the buffalo skull there. And that I need enlightenment. I need to not stay in this situation. And I need to look it in the face and figure it out to get over some of the pain. So this could be indicating too that presently my thoughts and my past experience are not helping me at this moment. And so I need to, that I'm stuck in a page state of mind where this devil is concerned. And so I often think of the devil too as, and this makes a lot of sense with these two cards, is two that are not in their power, and that the devil is something in the basement, and particularly so something that we don't want to look at or don't want to face. And so it's really appropriate when this comes up to me, because that's like, no, don't leave it in the dark. Shine a light on it. Get that light on it. And then you can start dealing with this. You need to get it out of there. So it's like, feelings of shame, in terms of mental failures, material failures, and needing to get it out of the basement, take it out of the dark, and shed light on it. Get it out in the open, shed light on it, the effect of it, and let the solutions begin to take place. So I initially wasn't thinking it in those terms, in part because it's like, well, if I'm going to consult, if I'm going to understand this, I'm not going to go to pages. It has to be somebody experienced, is my thinking initially. So it's like, no, we're not doing pages for this battle. We're going to have some kings and queens or something, or knights even, but not some pages. But I can see this as me staying in the dark about this, as opposed to these being two people I might consult. So interesting. So I think that this did a good job of reflecting my current state, and except for those last three that were a little difficult for me to grasp, the cards that I pulled, additional cards I pulled from the deck, were enlightening, and helpful, helped me kind of, they were adequate clues, and yeah, so I'm actually a little surprised and hope that this continues, that it continues to talk to me as directly in the future spreads that I use it for as it did this time around. All right, everybody, thanks for coming along for the ride, and I will see you again soon.